divinely chosen. After 40 days of testing, your miraculous response is heaven's answered prayer. In the quaint village of Wycliffe, the air buzzed with desperation, hope, and whispered prayers. Father Thomas, the devoted pastor, found himself on the edge of a heartbreaking abyss. His beloved daughter, Grace, only 10 years old, had fallen terribly ill. It was as if a shadow had engulfed their home, dimming the light of his faith. Every day, he clung to the promises of Scripture, believing that the Almighty would intervene. Miracles were meant to happen, he thought. Yet, as Grace's condition worsened, doubt crept into his heart like a thief in the night. The village rallied around Father Thomas, the sweet scent of candle wax mingling with fervent prayers as the community gathered in the church of St. Andrew. Flickering lights cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere thick with longing. It was a haven of hope where souls sought divine mercy. Yet in their midst stood Mrs. Delaney, a contentious parishioner whose skepticism threw a pall over the gathering. Faith can't heal what science can diagnose, she proclaimed boldly, challenging the very foundation of their beliefs. Her words ignited a fervent debate, sowing seeds of division among the villagers. 8 days turned into weeks. Father Thomas embarked on a 40-day spiritual journey, urging his congregation to join in prayer. Together they sought answers, laying bare their souls before God. Each Sunday, the church swelled with tension as one side prayed for miracles while the other sought answers grounded in reason. Can we coexist? Father Thomas wondered aloud, torn between Scripture and the harsh realities of the modern world. Suddenly, amidst the despair, whispers of the miraculous began to echo through the village. A member of the congregation claimed to have witnessed a glowing figure at the church entrance, radiant with light and warmth. It was as if heaven descended upon us, he exclaimed, igniting a spark of hope. Father Thomas felt the stirring within his heart. Could this truly be a sign? Every flicker of flame within the church now carried a sense of divine urgency. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Day after day, Father Thomas watched as his community enveloped Grace in their prayers, their hearts beating as one. Each petition mingled with the scent of incense that drifted toward heaven, creating a tapestry of desperate faith. And yet, the visions began muffled whispers and tremors in the echoing silence of the church. He found himself drawn to the altar, overcome by the weight of his uncertainty. Was he truly hearing from heaven, or was he lost in a labyrinth of delusion? As the 40th day approached, he stood at the altar, heart heavy, praying fervently for a sign, a miracle to grip the heart of his village. The air thickened, charged with an inexplicable presence. The congregation gathered, eyes wide, as tears streamed down, faces uplifted in desperate prayer. In that sacred moment, the atmosphere seemed to vibrate with divine promise, a hope flickering brighter than before. But just as clarity began to form, the drumbeat of despair pounded on the very pulsing heart of faith. Grace's condition hung precariously in the balance. Would they find deliverance from the darkness? Could this story redefine their understanding of faith, community, and the miracles they sought? As the 40th day reached its zenith, an air of expectancy enveloped the church of St. Andrew. The flickering candles danced with fervor, illuminating the tear-streaked faces that turned upward, hearts merged in a common plea. Father Thomas stood at the altar, his soul racked with trembling hope and deep-rooted fear. In the stillness, he could almost hear the quiet murmur of angels aligning with the prayers of his people. Surely, this moment held the weight of heaven. Grant us this miracle, Lord, Father Thomas whispered, his hands clasped tightly in prayer. The room grew tense, pregnant with possibility. Yet, doubts lingered at the edges of his mind. Was this gathering merely an echo of desperate longing, or could it truly usher in a divine breakthrough? Just as Father Thomas steadied himself, a low rumble surged through the congregation. The sound, gentle yet firm, flowed like a warm breeze across the faces of everyone present. Eyes widened, hearts quickened. The pulsing energy in the room seemed to harmonize with their prayers, as if heaven itself responded with a whispered yes. "Do you feel that?" Someone murmured from the back. "It's like the walls are alive." The collective gasp that followed hinted at the dawning realization that something far beyond their understanding was at play. Then, in the soft glow of candlelight, a figure emerged, dressed not in earthly robes, but in a radiance that softened shadows and filled every crevice with light. Gasps filled the air, and the atmosphere shifted to one of reverence. This was not the vision of grandeur they had anticipated, but a gentleness, a calming presence radiating love and peace. Father Thomas inhaled deeply. This was no mere apparition, he thought. This was a divine messenger come to affirm their faith. "Be not afraid." The voice echoed, rich and soothing, laced with authority, yet sweet as honey. It flowed over them all like a balm to their anxious hearts, invoking a profound sense of safety. The figure gestured towards Grace's empty chair. "Your faith is the bridge," it declared, eyes piercing through their souls. And in this united prayer, a miracle stirs. A wave of warmth rushed over Father Thomas, dispelling the icy grip of doubt. Could it be true? Was the fruit of their relentless prayers finally within reach? He surveyed the faces of his congregation, bright with a glimmering hope, folks who had been battered by doubt, but now stood united, hearts ignited by fresh conviction. "Trust in the unseen, for within it dwells the greatest bond," the voice continued. "When faith and community intertwine, divine grace manifests in ways you cannot expect." But just as the revelation settled in their hearts, a sudden chill gusted through the room. The light dimmed, and the figures started to wane like a sunset slipping below the horizon, leaving behind whispers of hope and uncertainty. As the room fell back into dim candlelight, confusion swirled like autumn leaves caught in a storm. "What does this mean?" Someone cried out in anguish, grasping for understanding. "Is the miracle close, or have we been led on a wild goose chase?" Father Thomas felt a rippling tension among his flock. The atmosphere was thick with questions born from every heart that had hoped so fervently. Had they sought glory or truth? Had they truly understood what it meant to follow the divine path? With a trembling heart, Father Thomas knew this was merely the beginning. The whispers of heaven might grant clarity or lead them deeper into the quest for faith that tests everything they thought they knew. What awaited them next, he wondered. Was the miracle all they wished for, or was it something much greater? A profound silence fell upon the church, leaving the congregation at the threshold of revelation. They stood on the cusp between despair and a deepening faith, uncertain yet hopeful. What was about to unfold in their lives could change everything. And amid their holding breath, the universe seemed to pause. Why had they gathered truly? What was the real essence of their pleading hearts? With these questions lingering in the sacred air, Father Thomas whispered an invocation of trust. "Lord, guide us to the truth that sets us free." The next moment held the promise of the inexplicable, and the church quivered in anticipation. Would they be ready for the answer that lay ahead? The candles flickered softly, casting shadows that danced along the walls of the church of St. Andrew. The smell of wax mingled with the faint scent of sandalwood incense, creating a sacred atmosphere that felt almost tangible. Every face in the congregation was a mosaic of emotions: hope, fear, anticipation. Father Thomas could sense the shifting tides of faith within the hearts of his people. They were ready, yet unsure of what awaited them. A profound stillness echoed through the sanctuary, as if the world outside had dissolved, leaving only a sacred space for divine interaction. "What is it, Lord?" Father Thomas prayed silently, sensing the weight of their collective longing. The air crackled, charged with energy, and he could feel the vibrations resonate not only within himself but around everyone gathered. Suddenly, a hush descended, louder than any sound. A feeling of imminent revelation hung in the air. It was as if time held its breath, urging them to listen more intently, to peer beyond the veil of the ordinary. The figure that had graced them with its presence now felt closer, hovering in the ether, eager to impart a message. "Open your eyes to the world beyond the scene," the voice whispered again, now more urgent. "Miracles dwell not only in the extraordinary, but in every act of love and kindness between you." Stirred by this call, Father Thomas glanced at the faces surrounding him, each face a testament to trials overcome, to the struggles that had woven them together. Some were weary, others weary yet resolute. All were united by the same desire. He could see children clinging to their parents, elderly couples squeezing one another's hands, and young adults standing tall, their faces alight with expectation. "Speak to us, Lord," Father Thomas urged, emboldened by the fervor in his heart. "What must we do to receive this miracle?" The figure shimmered, bathing the room in a warm glow. "Your miracle does not rest solely within these walls. It blossoms in your hearts, nurtured by your willingness to love fiercely and faithfully," the voice affirmed, reverberating with clarity. "What you seek is the courage to act upon the faith you profess." It was a gentle yet powerful nudge that awakened something deep inside Father Thomas. He realized they had sought after signs and wonders, but the true miracle had already manifested in the unity and love shared among them. Every prayer whispered, every tear shed, every hand held tight had created a fertile ground for something extraordinary to unfold. With renewed fervor, Father Thomas raised his voice, "Lord, we are here to serve. Help us to be vessels of love. Let us be the hands and feet of your will in this world." As he spoke, a wave of emotion swept through the congregation, igniting a spark of zealous faith simmering just beneath the surface. It was clear they were being called to action, to step beyond their own needs and embrace a mission of compassion. One by one, voices rang out, echoing Father Thomas's prayer. "Let us be your instruments. Here we are, Lord. In your name, let us share your love." The vibrant harmony unfurled like a flower reaching toward the sun. Hope became palpable, intertwining with purpose. While hearts brimmed with anticipation, the figure began to dissolve slowly, its brilliance merging with the flickering candlelight. Father Thomas felt a weight lift from his spirit as clarity set in, transforming doubt into resolve. The miracle ahead was intertwined with their willingness to love and serve. Yet, a thin veil of uncertainty still lingered. What if their efforts did not yield the results they hoped for? What if the calling led them into unknown trials? He dared not voice these thoughts, for fear they would dim the spark ignited within the community. Yes, the final remnants of the ethereal figure faded. An unsettling yet exhilarating silence stretched between them, a quiet breath before the plunge into action. In that silence, the congregation held onto the conviction that they had been divinely stirred. "Trust in the path ahead," Father Thomas murmured, feeling the weight of their moment. But what if the greatest test is still to come? With hearts aflame and questions lingering, they united once more to pray, to pause before stepping boldly into the unknown. What awaited them beyond that threshold? Would they find the strength to embrace the call? The answer was a bright enigma just out of sight. The congregation bowed their heads, a collective reverence enveloping the sacred space. The flicker of candles was the only guide in that dim light encounter, each flame whispering promises of warmth and hope. Father Thomas's heart was alive with emotion, a storm of anticipation churning within. How deep was their faith? How strong would their resolve be when they were tested? "Lord, what is your will?" he breathed, a plea whether spoken aloud or simply echoed in their hearts. Around him, the air was ripe with potential. He could feel the presence they had just experienced lingering, nudging them toward deeper introspection. The stillness was almost overwhelming, and within that space, he dared to ponder the journey before them. They were called not just to faith, but to action. What would that look like? As if reading his thoughts, a gentle slide of wind swept through the church, stirring the candle's light. See the community outside, the voice of profound whisper lilting through the silence. They await your love. Father Thomas raised his eyes slowly, scanning the faces of the congregation. Each face was painted with dreams and fears, courage and hesitation. They were ready, yet hesitating on the edge of the unknown. He could see the flicker of determination battling with trepidation, intertwining just as the light danced in the shadows. Together, we can embrace this call, he proclaimed, his voice more robust, infused with divine assurance. But it asked more of us. His words hung in the air, each syllable a tether binding them closer. We shall serve beyond ourselves. We will find those who hurt, who feel lost. We are the light that this world needs. Encouraged, the congregation stirred, murmurs passing through them like a ripple on a quiet lake. They looked to each other, eyes brightening with shared hope. Some reached for hands, smiles breaking like dawn over the horizon. Yes, we must bring healing. A voice rang out from the back. Let our actions speak of his love. I'll lead a food drive. Another declared, excitement bubbling. I can help set up a community garden. A young woman shouted, her enthusiasm infectious. Their voices began to rise, overlapping as ideas flowed, each one begetting another. Dreams wove together, creating a tapestry in perfect harmony. Each shout struck a chord, resonating deep within a heart that had craved action for so long. This was the miracle, the transformation of resolve into purpose. Yet amongst their fervor, a shadow lingered. Father Thomas felt it scratching at the edges of his spirit. But what if we face opposition? What if love is met with indifference? He whispered, his heart aching with concern. The congregation began to slow, still filled with resolve, but now reflecting moments of uncertainty. Each looked toward Father Thomas, the guardian of their shared faith, and he understood the weight of their thoughts. He remembered the figure's promise that real miracles came from fierce love and faith. Even amid trials, remember, he called out, his voice steady. We are never alone. He walks with us. As their spirits lifted again, a soft tremor rippled through the floor, like a breath from beneath the earth. It drew their attention, silencing their eager chatter. A radiant light began to appear from the altar, shining brightly even in the flickering ambience. Do you feel it? Someone murmured, awestruck. Yes, it's him, another answered, eyes wide with wonder. Father Thomas glanced toward the altar, the light brightening, illuminating each face adorned with a glimmer of divine energy. They were being watched, being prepared, heartbeats in sync with God's divine will. Yet, as radiant as this moment was, it was both exciting and terrifying. The light beckoned, but where would its purpose lead them? Questions unfurled like petals, bursting with potential and mystery. Let us gather strength and embrace the call together, Father Thomas said, an unmistakable urgency thrumming in his chest. We are stepping into a realm yet unseen. The congregation nodded, their hearts alive with possibility but threaded with caution. Are we ready for the journey? He asked, a challenge and a question hanging in the air, gleaming like that fierce light. In perfect unison, they nodded, a gentle resounding that pulsed through the room. Then let us begin, but what lies ahead may test our faith in ways we cannot yet imagine. The vibrant light from the altar enveloped the congregation, a warm embrace that stirred their hearts. Father Thomas's pulse quickened as he saw the faces before him transform, radiating with the hope and purpose they had just affirmed. Together, he urged, his voice steady yet filled with fervor, we will step beyond these walls. The light we feel here must spill out into every shadowed corner of our community. We're on a divine mission, but as excitement coursed through the air, a small voice from the back broke the momentum. Father, what if we fail? An older man asked, vulnerability painting his face with worry. What if our best isn't enough? The air thickened with tension. Others nodded, their enthusiasm dimming under the weight of doubt. Father Thomas sensed the struggle, the unspoken fears swirling amongst them, and he took a breath. To love is not to guarantee success, he replied softly, but to be faithful in our actions. It's about sowing love, even when the seeds feel small. The glowing light pulsed, a reminder of the divine presence that stirred them toward courage. Look around you. Each of us here is a part of something greater. Our willingness to act can be a beacon of hope, and light has a way of breaking through darkness, doesn't it? His words hung in the air, thick with emotion. Slowly, the faces in the room began to shift. The shadows of doubt mixed with inspiration, pulling together the threads of faith once more. They were not alone. Even if one heart faltered, another would stand firm beside it. Let us humbly enter our community with open hands, Father Thomas urged. Let us serve without expectation, mirror his love without doubt. We are his hands, his heart for those in need. Murmurs of agreement began to circulate again, the warmth of newfound resolve igniting in their spirits. I'll bring my neighbors together for tea and share what we have. One woman exclaimed. Let us offer prayer stations in our park. Another suggested, excitement trembling in her tone. Each idea sparked more. Soon they were mapping their strategies, the energy rekindling hope like a well-placed flame in the night. Father Thomas felt the presence of God more acutely, each conversation bolstering their collective strength. They sketched plans on paper, dreams aligned. But then, the light flickered again, casting ghostly shadows across the walls. Father Thomas paused, sensing a deeper truth hidden behind the radiance. What if in our reaching, we encounter resistance? He pondered aloud. Will we yield to fear, or will we thrive in his strength? A hush fell over them. Unspoken thoughts danced in the air, weaving through the threads of their intentions. Hearts began to race, a palpable tension forming in the space between faith and fear. Brothers and sisters, he said, his voice commanding yet gentle. What we embark upon is more than a service project. It is a spiritual war. Every heart we touch is a small piece of this kingdom work. Will we go forth, even when faced with hesitation or hardship? In that moment, they were united. The cannon of shared commitment pulsed stronger than any fear, their hearts beating like a drum of courage. Let's leave our mark, someone shouted, their spirit unyielding. Yes, echoed through the room, resolute and fierce, igniting a collective fire among them. As they ready to step out into the world, Father Thomas closed his eyes briefly, offering a prayer of thanks for their gathered strength. No matter what waited beyond those walls, they would pursue God's call with fervor. And then, as if answering his prayer, the light began to shift. It surged forth, bathing them in warmth like a soft summer sun, illuminating their hearts with certainty. It felt otherworldly, a divine intervention, sending ripples of compassion through their souls. Let us remember the power within us. Father Thomas reminded them, raised arms encouraging all to embrace this moment. God is with us. With every act of love, we will shine. Just as they felt the world coming alive beneath their feet, a crackling voice echoed from the altar, snapping. Their attention. Your next step beckons, but the path may not be as clear as you hope. Intrigued murmurs bubbled back up, hearts thumping with anticipation. What awaited them outside was yet to be revealed, resting within the mystery of divine plans. Will you trust that love always outweighs fear? Father Thomas challenged, spirit igniting with hope. The answer lay on the horizon, shimmering like the dawn, waiting just below the surface of their dream. The congregation stood poised at the edge of the unknown, questioning the journey lying before them. The congregation felt the crackling air laden with possibility. Father Thomas opened his eyes, meeting the collective gaze of hope and uncertainty. What we now face may be beyond what we envision, he declared, his heart racing with the urgency of their call. Yet his promise stands, he is with us every step we take. We must lean into that truth and trust. They lingered for just a moment longer, the energy buzzing like a softly strummed string on the verge of breaking the tension, heavy yet exhilarating. Then, one by one, they began descending from their sacred haven into the world. It was time to let the light within them spill into every heart waiting beyond. As they stepped into the dusk outside, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The colors of the sky blended, a tapestry of oranges and deep purples. It was as if the heavens themselves were signaling their mission. Bursting with positivity, the members of the congregation exchanged glances as they began to scatter, each warmly clutching their purpose like a cherished possession. Father Thomas turned to the group gathered around him, sensing the palpable eagerness. "Remember," he said, a soft smile breaking across his face, "each act of kindness is a thread, weaving us together in his greater design. There will be trials, yes, but let your hearts remain steeled in love." As they split into smaller teams, each set out on their own accord. One group headed to the local park, intentions set on crafting a circle of prayer. Another ventured through the neighborhood, sharing their gifts: a meal, a warm conversation, a listening ear. They encountered many, of course. Some were welcoming, with smiles and gratitude, while others appeared hardened by life as trials. One young woman they met, pacing alone in a dark corner of the park, seemed especially withdrawn. Her shoulders slumped with unspoken burdens, her eyes clouded with sorrow. As Father Thomas approached, the warm light of the evening reflected in his eyes. "Hello, friend," he said gently. "Is there something on your heart?" Her gaze flicked up, filled with a mix of fear and longing. "Why are you here? People don't come to help. They just leave," she muttered, barely meeting his gaze. He could feel her pain, resonating deeply within him. "We're here because we care. We believe the love in us is meant for you." "You are not alone," he replied. Tears welled in her eyes. Something in his voice called to her heart, stirring feelings long buried. How can you believe that? After everything?" "Because," he said, taking a step closer, "we have witnessed love's power. It can break chains, light darkened paths, and heal silent wounds. Would you allow us to share in your burdens? We have open hands and supplicating hearts, yearning to bear your struggles with you." His words hung in the air, stoking embers of hope in the space between them. The other members of the group, drawn by the gentle radiance of their exchange, began to gather, creating a circle of compassion about her. "All we ask is that you trust us, even just a little." More faces nodded affirmatively, wide smiles and hands extended. One man spoke up. "Love can reignite the light within you, too." Minutes stretched like hours, and that tender connection fortified the once bruised spirit of the young woman. At last, she took a deep breath, surrendering the weight she had carried for so long. The circle pulsed with warmth, each heart now intertwining with hers in quiet resilience. Father Thomas stood back, surveying the moment, the beauty of souls converging, a tapestry of divine splendor formed with every whisper of faith. Yet, there was still the distant echo of the unknown, that crackling voice hanging like a hidden melody of circumstances yet to unfold. When hardship strikes, and it will you remember that love prevails. He pondered aloud to his group, courage aflame in their spirits. The young woman smiled softly, reflecting their belief in her newfound strength. It was not only her journey being renewed, it was theirs as well. With hearts united and steps sure, they turned further into the community, ready to embrace whatever awaited, yet keeping the spirit of inquiry alive. What challenges might emerge from the dark corners still untouched. As they journeyed deeper into that night, a comet streaked across the sky above, a silent reminder that they were not just part of a mission, they were conduits of heavenly purpose. What awaited them was still a mystery, yet their hearts, now joined, would carry the light forward, praying with every step that God's answers would rain down upon them, guiding their way. And as they moved on, the question lingered: could love truly triumph when the path became arduous? As they walked through the quiet streets, soft laughter and hushed whispers mingled in the crisp night air. The path ahead seemed to glow, illuminated not just by the streetlights, but by the faith glowing brighter within them. Each step resonated with purpose, like the drumbeat of an unseen choir. Father Thomas felt the gentle tug of the Spirit guiding them. He led the way, heart open, as they moved deeper into the neighborhood. Every door they passed held a story. Every shadow hid a soul in need of light. His anticipation mingled with unease. What would the night reveal? Suddenly, a loud shout pierced the evening. It came from a nearby alley, where a group of teenagers stood arguing. As they approached, the tension escalated, voices raised, anger sparking in the air. Father Thomas motioned for his group to pause, his heart pounding. "They need us," he whispered. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, his heart a beacon of love despite the storm brewing before him. "Friends, can we pause for a moment?" His voice cut through the noise, steady yet warm. The youth turned toward him, surprise flickering in their eyes. "Who are you?" One spat, defensive. "We're just here to share some love and kindness," Father Thomas replied, keeping his tone gentle. He pointed behind him to the group that had come with him. "We want to hear your story, if you'll let us." Intrigued, the anger began to dissipate a little. One girl stepped forward, glancing back at her friends uncertainly. "We don't need your pity. We're fine." "Fine?" Father Thomas echoed with a subtle smile. "We're simply too tough to admit you're hurting. We've all been there, at some point masked our pain under bravado." A hush fell. The girl's shoulders relaxed slightly. His words resonated, reflecting their own guarded hearts. "Look," she began, her tone softening. "We just want to be taken seriously. The world keeps pushing us down. Your feelings matter," Father Thomas affirmed. "Your voices matter. And sometimes we need others to share our burdens. Will you allow us to do just that?" Silence stretched as they mulled over the invitation. Murmurs of disbelief swept through the huddle while some faced one another, grappling with the unexpected offer. "But what if we trust you and you let us down?" The girl dared to ask, vulnerability peeking through her guarded exterior. "That's a risk we all take," he said, stepping closer, meeting her wary gaze with compassion. "But trust blooms in the garden of love. Would you let us sow a few seeds in faith tonight?" Slowly, she nodded, taking a small step forward, her voice trembling. "Okay, I'll try." With that, the group of younger hearts crossed the threshold of their emotional walls, bringing their struggles, dreams, and fears into the open. Laughter mingled with tears as Father Thomas and his congregation listened, providing a safe haven. The night transformed, charged with an extraordinary grace. Every shared story knit them closer, an unexpected kinship sprouting under the cloak of vulnerability. Yet all the while, Father Thomas felt a pulling at his spirit, a stirring of something more profound pressing on the horizon. Was a greater challenge waiting in the wings? As the conversation deepened, an undercurrent of reverence filled the space like a holy hush hanging above them. Father Thomas sensed the very atmosphere shifting, the ingredients of divine intervention swirling eagerly in the air. With the youth's trust opening, the youth began to reflect on their own encounters, often colored by despair. Yet amid their revelations, the flicker of hope remained bright hope ignited by the hand of fellowship extended in their darkest moments. What will we do next? Father Thomas pondered aloud, uncertainty lacing his tone. The young girl who had first stepped forward answered, her voice steadied by newfound courage. "We'll keep sharing. Start something here where we can always return." A nod of agreement passed among the group, yet the feeling of divine presence enveloped them. They could start anew, but a question lingered in the air. Was this merely the beginning of newfound challenges? From the shadows beyond the alley, another presence loomed, a harbinger of trials unseen, perhaps. It whispered an unshakable truth. Transformation was a journey paved with tests. Father Thomas smiled, feeling the warmth of their renewed connection. Whatever lay ahead, they'd face it together. But what could the tests be that awaited them in this newfound chapter of faith? Together, they stood at the precipice of destiny's embrace, hearts united, daring to discover what awaited as they entered uncharted territory filled with growth or struggle. One thing was certain: they would rise together. And in that moment of pregnant pause, a question flickered like a candle in the stillness: what miraculous surprises does the true test of faith hold? As the night wrapped around them, the air thickened with energy, a divine anticipation fluttering in the hearts gathered there. Father Thomas looked into the eyes surrounding him, each filled with a mix of hope and apprehension. It was as if the shadows themselves listened, waiting. "What do we need to do?" Another young man stepped forward, courage bubbling within him. "Do we just talk? Or can we change something?" His brow furrowed, as if wrestling with the weight of their shared burdens. Father Thomas felt a ripple of excitement wash over him. Change begins with us in our hearts, by meeting each other where we are. This place can be our sanctuary, a space where every voice matters. We can create that together. The air felt electric, as if a current of faith sparked among them. Each one present could feel that pulse of possibility, rising and awakening that beckoned them toward action. They were no longer just a group of angry youth caught in the storm of their own lives. They were a community ready to forge bonds of understanding and love. The girl who had first stepped forward looked toward her friends, a flicker of determination igniting within her. "What if we create a gathering? Something for our friends and others who feel lost? A place to share and heal?" Her voice gained strength with each word. "And we can bring in music and art." A boy chimed in, eyes brightening with inspiration. "People could express themselves, feel seen. We can turn this anger into something beautiful." Father Thomas's heart swelled with pride. They were taking the first steps into something greater, a movement of healing and connection sprouting from vulnerability. "Yes," he exclaimed, the warmth of encouragement filling his heart. "Let your creativity flow. Let it be a reflection of your hearts, turning toward not just each other, but the world outside." Their energy was contagious. Ideas began to flow freely, building momentum like waves crashing onto shores of hope. Laughter mixed with fervent planning, a beautiful mosaic of thoughts and ambitions budding right there in the alley. Yet, a shadow lingered in the corner of Father Thomas's mind. He realized the path of transformation was rarely smooth. Challenges unspooled behind every corner they turned. "Friends," he spoke, raising his hand gently to divert their laughter momentarily. "As we begin this journey, remember there will be storms. Not everyone may love our light. Some might even resist. Be prepared for doubts and trials." A moment of stillness hung in the air as the group processed his words. "But we're stronger together," the girl replied, her voice emboldened. "We're lifting each other up now. We'll stand against whatever comes." Father Thomas felt a wave of reassurance. Their unity bore strength. Together, they were crafting not just a gathering, but a community built on faith and resilience. As they continued brainstorming, a new sense of purpose emerged. It was as if the very stars above aligned, painting their path with divine guidance. Yet, the nagging question remained: what was the greater challenge that lay ahead, lurking beyond the comforting glow of their budding fellowship? When the first light of dawn would finally break, washing away the darkness of night, would it bring clarity or confusion? Only time would tell. With hearts full of hope, Father Thomas stood at the threshold of this fresh chapter, a divine plan unfolding as they prepared to embrace the inevitable trials. What awaited them, beyond this glorious step forward, would become the ultimate test of faith and fellowship. What unseen battles would test the bonds they forged? And how would their spirits respond to the divine call that beckoned them toward their destinies? The sun crested the horizon, spilling golden light into the alley, washing away the remnants of the night's uncertainty. Father Thomas could feel its warmth penetrate his skin, igniting something deeper within a hope reborn. As the rays danced playfully on the pavement, it seemed to mirror the excitement in the hearts of his young companions. One by one, they began to gather. The girl with the strong voice stood first, her enthusiasm palpable. "Today we start," she declared, determination lining her eyes. Let us choose a name for our gathering. Calling it light in the shadows feels right. Another voice chimed in, full of exuberance. It's what we're here to be. Father Thomas smiled, the name resonating with a divine truth. Yes, that's beautiful. This could be a beacon of hope, an invitation to others who seek and struggle. He watched as each young person contributed ideas, their faces lit with fervor. The energy shifted, carrying something sacred, a stirring deep within each heart. Strings of laughter echoed above simple conversations, threads of connection binding them tighter. Yet beyond their blissful chatter, Father Thomas felt an undercurrent of apprehension. He reminded them, as the days unfold, it's crucial to remain balanced and grounded. Remember, every action we take will shine light, but it can also cast shadows. Voices quieted, the weight of his words sinking in. But that doesn't mean we halt. The boy with bright eyes asserted, breaking the silence. We must keep creating, reaching out. We found each other. Why will we turn back? Father Thomas nodded. He felt pride swell within him, mingling with a hint of fear. Exactly. If we lean on one another, we'll navigate every storm that brews. The healing we can deliver is profound. But hear me, he continued, the world outside might respond differently than we hope. With our faith, let us open our hearts to love everyone, even those who may not understand us. A quiet murmuring began, each one processing what it meant to love with open hearts. The girl who spoke first took a breath, her gaze firm. We know pain. We know darkness. It fuels our fire to reach out. We can guide others to a place of light, just as we found ours. Each time she spoke, her words seemed to weave a thread between them, the kind of connection that transcended fear. Let us capture stories, another young man proposed. We can share our journeys, encourage others by showing the way we discovered healing. A murmur of agreement swept through the group. As Father Thomas watched them, he sensed the sacred stirring. Each idea was like a stone thrown into water, creating ripples that reached further than they could see. The sun climbed higher, and the shadows began to retreat, but he felt that deep, compelling question in his spirit again. Were they truly prepared for what lay ahead? A sudden gust of wind swirled around them, scattering bits of paper and leaves, almost like nature's way of reminding them of impermanence. Stay grounded, Father Thomas urged. But as he said those words, hope surged. He began to grasp that in sharing their light, they would inspire many to find theirs as well. As tears brimmed in a few eyes, he realized something monumental just unfolded. They weren't only creating a gathering. They were sparking a movement that would ripple through lives unseen. This was divine purpose, the sacred calling that they were blindly stepping into. Yet, as faith blossomed, what would their first encounter with skepticism reveal? When faced with opposition, how would they respond? With hearts full but minds racing, the group prepared to leap into the unknown, eager to bring their light into the world. But the challenge waiting outside beckoned with a foreboding whisper, testing their resolve. What trials awaited them in the shadows? And what awaited their response when the winds fiercely blew? With the promise of a new dawn, Father Thomas and his vibrant community stood on the brink of something monumental. The sun bathed the world in golden light, illuminating their purpose. It felt as if the sacred energy from the night before still thrummed through them, each heartbeat a reminder of the miracle awoken in their hearts. Today, we bring the light, Father Thomas declared, his voice firm yet tender, stirring hope within their eager spirits. The murmurs of agreement danced around him like the flicker of flame, brightening the anticipation that buzzed in the air. Determined, they set their first course toward the heart of Wycliffe. As they wandered through the streets, a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension coursed through their veins. What awaited them felt weighty yet electric, a blend of unknown challenges and unmistakable divine purpose. Questions echoed in Father Thomas's heart as he led them onward. Would their faith shine even in the face of adversity? Reaching the town square, the group decided to set up a small booth. A sign read, "Light in the shadows, here for you." It was a beacon for all who passed, inviting folks to share their burdens and joys. Yet as their enthusiasm ignited, shadows began to flicker on the horizon. A local business owner approached, his brow furrowed in skepticism. "What is this?" he questioned, voice edged. "Why should we trust you people with our stories? You're just kids." Each word dripped with sectarian disdain, and the air grew thick with tension. Father Thomas felt a tight knot in his chest, yet he remembered the sacred lesson from their previous encounter. "We come not to judge, but to love, my friend," he said, steadying his voice. "We've known shadows ourselves, and we wish to walk with you, to lift the burdens you carry. That's what our gathering aims to do." In that moment, he witnessed the flicker of doubt in the businessman's eyes, and behind him, he could feel his young friend stiffen, uncertainty rising within. "Let us show him," the girl from the alley said, voice determined yet careful. "We know pain, and we reached out despite our fears." Before he could respond, a young man stepped forward, heart ablaze. "We know this town. We feel the hurt here. If we turn our backs, how can we call ourselves a community?" Witnessing conviction spilling from these once-guarded young hearts ignited something profound within the businessman. He hesitated, glancing at the hope emanating from the group. "But why would you care? What's in it for you?" "Because," another voice chimed in sharing light and love, we find healing ourselves." The words hung in the air, as if a divine thread stretched between them, inviting a real connection. The businessman shifted, the hardness in his demeanor cracking ever so slightly. "I've been lost too," he admitted, voice low, "but it feels like no one cares anymore. It's all about survival. It's about thriving." Father Thomas interjected, stepping closer. "Together, we can build bridges amid struggle. No one should feel alone." Slowly, recognition flickered through the skeptical man's eyes. Onlookers began to gather, witnessing the unfolding encounter. As voices joined in encouragement, Father Thomas felt something monumental shift. The clouds of doubt may be dark, but they were beginning to part. Empowered by their unity, the voices rose in a harmonious call to action, weaving the stories of their struggles together. Little sparks of understanding ignited in the crowd, hearts warming to the truth. "Can we begin anew?" the businessman finally asked, his gaze sweeping across the young group, sincerity reflected in his expression. "Maybe I was wrong to judge. Maybe we could work together." "That would be a miracle," Father Thomas whispered, joy swelling in his heart. As they embraced the businessman, the crowd erupted in cheers. Laughter mingled with tears of relief as barriers shattered. They had ignited the beacon of hope, and light streamed forth in unexpected ways. But just as joy filled the air, a familiar chill coursed through Father Thomas. What trials awaited them? Ahead? Would this moment be enough to sustain them, or would the shadows return with a roar, testing the bonds they had begun to forge? With hearts emboldened, the group spent the rest of the day engaging with those who approached their booth. Each encounter was a tapestry woven with trust and vulnerability, love pouring into every connection. Stories were shared, laughter and even tears flowed, leaving traces of hope throughout Wycliffe. As evening settled and the vibrant energy began to wane, Father Thomas gathered everyone close. Today was just the beginning, he proclaimed, and the flicker of excitement sparked anew. Together, we open a door. We must remain vigilant, strong in love as we move forward. Those lingering shadows in his heart whispered uncertainties yet again. As we step into tomorrow, hold on to the faith that everything we offer is a seed planted in love. With dimming twilight wrapping around them, every face glowed with determination. They were poised for the uncharted path ahead, ready to embrace whatever the next morning might hold. "Let us shine, no matter what shadows arise." They echoed, their voices a symphony of faith dancing through the night. United, they walked on with vibrant hope, bursting with the promise of what love could bring into a world so yearning for light. This was their moment, The dawn of a new beginning, a journey propelled not by certainty, but by a faith that dared to believe in miracles around every corner. Will you join their mission? Will you shine your light with unwavering faith? In the darkness, every flicker counts. Your voice is needed, and together we can create an unbreakable tapestry of hope and love. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread love. Comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. You need to show your support. It makes a difference. Don't wait even one more second.